Hey, Dr. Karen here. Welcome to another edition of the Spiritual Medicine Digest. And the theme for the last week or so has been like the shadow or healing the shadow. So I did notice something very interesting with me personally, and we'll see whether or not this, happened to play out in your life or not. But what I noticed personally is that when I did my daily meditation and visualization and seeding the stillness with my future manifestation, that what I asked for, I upped the ante, and this is what my mentors have challenged us to do. Is so I looked at the big picture. We're talking like 10-year vision, okay, of what I want to create in this world, in this timeline, this lifetime. And what was interesting for me is doing this more consistently over the last week or so, that the contrast has shown up for me. So when we ask for things that are bigger than what we've asked for before, sometimes the contrast shows up so we can heal those things faster and quicker so we can manifest more efficiently. So the contrast for me came in the form of, an unhappy customer who through some weird configuration of emails and confusion and that kind of stuff, basically was just massively pissed off at me. And no matter what I said, no matter what I did, it just wasn't good enough. And yeah, it was really challenging because then she started calling me names and, all that kind of stuff. And so for me, it was like what used to be what I called my worst case scenario. So my worst case scenario would have someone blame me or criticize me based on my shadow aspects. And what shadow aspects are, and there's a wonderful film called The Shadow Effect, so definitely watch that if you have not, by the late amazing Debbie Ford. So The Shadow Effect is amazing. So anyway, so in the Shadow Effect movie, they talk about how, and in the book, The Dark Side of the Light Chasers, is that what we have basically pushed away, the negative aspects of ourselves that we cannot stand, that we cannot tolerate in ourselves, we project those onto other people, and so those other people really bug us. So in the past, the shadow aspects of myself that I didn't accept was being told I was lazy because I couldn't stand the thought of being lazy, being told I was unethical and untruthful, which again, because I was so honest and so truthful, it would hurt me to the bone, like to the core, if somebody told me that I was a liar. And the third one I think is incompetence, or I can't even remember now, something along those lines, because I so love mastery, that anybody in the past telling me I was incompetent, lazy, liar, dishonest, all those kinds of things, because I tried so hard to be the opposite. Those things used to really, if somebody said those to me, especially family members, of course they never say anything so bad like you're a liar, but if they insinuated that, I would be hurt to the core and I'd be so devastated. So here's the thing. You're on the right path is when people can present to you the darkest, deepest parts of your shadows, and you're okay with it. You process it quickly. In other words, over the years, I've gotten to understand that each of us has a light and dark sides of all aspects. And so there are positive aspects of the shadow, as Debbie Ford taught in The Shadow Effect, meaning that, the shadow side of laziness has a positive effect. So because I was trying to push away this shadow of laziness, I overworked and overdid things. And I still, still work on that, of course. So the nice thing about being lazy is self-care. So the positive aspect of laziness is self-care and saying no. You see how that is? So say manipulation, there's another shadow one. So manipulation, so there's obviously negative sides to manipulation, but the positive side is what that same skill set has a positive side. It's a double-edged sword kind of thing. So the positive side of manipulation is being able to influence people positively, to aspire them to a higher level, to help them take action when it's going to be for their highest and greatest good. And you could say that's a form of manipulation, right? But unlike, say, Hitler, that form of manipulation, this would be more like, Martin Luther King or the Nelson Mandelas, where they, their lives, their example really aspires us and inspires us to be a different person. So anyway, so lots of shadows clearing. So if you have felt, irritable, if you've had other people feel irritable, some of those shadow aspects, mass consciousness is clearing and healing now. So just hang on for the ride. And just see it as an opportunity. The other really great thing is that, if the worst case scenario happens and you can be okay with that, oh my gosh, how powerful is that? That means you would never be afraid of anything, So, for me, in the past, it might have been, I don't know, maybe my MD license being threatened because I'm doing all this woo-woo weird stuff, and maybe the powers that be won't like it, okay, despite the fact that, yeah, we change hurricanes, we do a lot of good stuff, but it's not traditional medicine, right? So there's that possibility that traditional medicine might go, forget it, you're some weird MD, and even though you were top, 10 in your class, and you worked at UCLA, and were assistant professor, not to mention the chair of the evidence-based medicine program in Santa Monica, UCLA for residents, okay? Despite all of that stuff, you're doing weird stuff now, we don't understand, so forget it, we don't want to give you your license, right? So that would be a worst case scenario for me, and I'm like, am I going to be okay with that? And that's a tough one for MDs, right? And you know what? I've had to really address that fear and let it go. Let it go and let be whatever happens. Just trust the universe that is for the highest and greatest good. Yeah, and then this particular, person that helped reflect the shadow, and I really, wish her the best and hope she heals, from her, mental issue. But anyway, calling names, loser, liar, cheater, whatever it is, right? So the worst case scenario already happened. So I've already done that, been there. Now I have processed it. Can't speak. Then it's like, wow, I can move on from my worst case scenarios. This is so totally awesome. So hopefully you haven't had as challenging a week as me, but if you have, I totally feel you. The other great thing of being struck with the contrast, which the contrast comes up when you wish for higher level things, you know what I mean, is not to be scared of those things. Just know it's part of it, what we call abundance challenges, and the Unlock Your Superpowers program, we call it the abundance challenges. You'll deal with them as they come on. You have that capability of doing that, and if you're part of the Light Warrior Network, the Light Warrior Support Group, my paid group, you have support, you have love. Just, let us know, if you need support and love. So a couple of the things I want to mention for this week is that one is related to Thanksgiving. So in America, we had Thanksgiving this past week. Traditionally, since I started doing this work and increasing my sensitivity as part of Ascension, I've noticed that during the week of Thanksgiving, especially Thanksgiving itself, there are resistance energies that try to counteract, so to speak, the energies of love and gratitude. So they're almost like anti-positive morphic fields, but that are blasted throughout this world. So in the past, Thanksgiving and New Year's Eve, heads up on that one. So New Year's Eve are times where we've had, in the past, alien, frequencies, military stuff, human interference, a lot of alien stuff in the past. And so I took a kind of a preemptive precaution, kind of thing, and I did a ton of clearing before Thanksgiving. So it was much better in the last couple of years. This year, during Thanksgiving, there was a little blip, in that I did start feeling a little sick partway through Thanksgiving, and when I did some testing on it, had to do with a parallel timeline. So my awareness was such that I was not consciously aware that I'm clearing parallel timelines. So I just extended the healing that I already did, added a few more things so that all parallel timelines and wherever we're having Thanksgiving can be cleared. And that took about 40 minutes to really clear, so I felt better after that. But some of you sensitives may have felt that little glitch where that parallel timeline was under attack, and you may have felt unwell during Thanksgiving. It's not your fault. And sometimes the attacks come during holidays, because then you're going to blame something else. You're going to blame family, you're going to blame the wine, fine, you're going to blame too much sugar, you know, that kind of thing, instead of that knowing that, you know, you're manipulated in these other levels. But on a global level, I try to clear all that for all of us. So hopefully you had a good, you know, if you're American, good Thanksgiving. Let's see, the other thing I wanted to check in and share with you, gosh, could I read my own writing? Yes, okay, so is the positive morphic fields of the selves keep evolving. So you may, if you have the Topican Healing Guides, you're part of the level 1 training, you'll actually have this guide, and these selves here in this row do keep evolving. So self-reliance was evolving, self-fulfillment, self-trust? Oh wait, yeah, so this might happen. You may notice that this past week, and that comes and goes. The other thing I wanted to check in is if you are downloading a positive morphic field, how we normally say it is, I now command the positive morphic field of whatever, XYZ, be downloaded and activated, mean the highest and best way. So we have had a couple cases where the activation part is not complete. So if you downloaded something and fully activated it, you can ask a trick question, which is, how many parts of me did not fully activate this download? And then you might get 1, 2, whatever it is. And then if you don't need to know more, you can ask your God team to complete that activation. So just a little tweak, you know, to the Topican healing technique. And the other thing too is, this is super, super important. This isn't just for this week, but one of the key areas that you can kind of tell where you are in the, you know, divine path of spiritual evolution is what happens when either old symptoms come back, or that you're doing testing work and what you've healed before doesn't look like it's healed anymore. And you're like, hey, my liver was 100% the other day. Why is it 60 again? Okay. So 2 things. One is that if you're in that place of, oh, not again, you know, then you need to grow out of that place and go into curiosity. And that is the safest place to be. Because if you go into resistance, if you go into, oh my God, you know, if you go into fear, anxiety, you know, that kind of stuff, then you're pushing your future reality away from you, the one that you want. So if you are noticing these things, it's okay to notice it, but then you can just be curious and go, gee, you know, I thought my liver was really good. It was 99%. Like, why is it 60% today? So here's a hint for you. For many of you that have been doing this healing work for a while, that doing Topican healing work for a while, when you ask how happy XYZ is, okay, if you've done a lot of healing work, the universe will give you an answer based on the lowest happiness score of all timelines. Why? Because we have converged with all of our timelines, most of us. And what happens is, if it affects you in this body, in this timeline, that number will show up. So for example, say your name is Bob in one timeline and your name is Susie in another timeline, okay? So in this timeline, if you check how happy is my liver in this body in this timeline, you get 100%. Okay, but if you didn't ask that way and you asked how happy is my liver, you might get 40%. You might, oh my gosh, I already healed it. What happened? Then the best thing to ask is that true for this body in this timeline? In this case, you would get a no. And then you would say, oh, okay, so are you giving me the lowest score of all timelines? And the universe will say yes. So for those of you that have done a lot of healing work, sometimes the universe will automatically give you the lowest score in any timeline. So if your liver is 40% and that's the lowest, and that's Bob, that'll be, you know, for Bob. If you check your kidneys and it's, you know, 60%, that might be Susie. You know, and that's your lowest in that timeline. So just keep in mind, we're always healing multiple layers of ourselves, multi-dimensionally, multi-timeline, that kind of stuff. So please don't get upset if you feel like you've done healing already and it's back or it's not healed. It's not necessarily true. It could be onion layers of different things needing to heal, or it could be you are now being told by the universe what's the lowest of all those timelines. So if you do muscle testing, and this is a regular thing you do, check which timeline those numbers are coming from. So that's a big tip for this week. Okay, so so next week, so let me just check in our calendar here. We're going to check in next week here. So on the radio show, we are going to have my lovely, lovely Sarah Cosgrave, and Sarah Cosgrave is actually a nurse. She's an ICU nurse. I met her in Fiji with the Wellness Leadership Academy, and here's the thing. I adopted her. Yes. She's one of my kids. Yeah, she's 22, I think. Yeah. Sorry, Sarah, if I got you the wrong. 27, 22. Anyway, I can't remember. I think 27. Okay. So anyway, so Sarah is, you know, in her 20s, and she's an ICU nurse. She's amazing amount of wisdom. She has her own Facebook group called the Nurtured Nurse Project. So if you are a nurse or know a nurse that needs some nurturing, please join or ask to join that Facebook group. She is an amazing person. And for someone so young, has all this wisdom, all these tools available to help nurses really be able to love and do their job and be nurtured themselves. So such a blessing, and she is a lovely, beautiful starseed. So I can't wait to share her with you. We're going to be doing a pre-recorded call because of the time zone difference. She's in Australia, but we'll be airing it live on Monday at 12 noon. So I look forward to sharing Sarah with you, and I wish you the rest of a wonderful weekend. Bye for now, guys.